we can dive in. So today we were talking about really just, and I know we're already obviously a month into quarter two. So that's also why I wanted it to be a little bit of a mix of like really quickly summarizing quarter one and then talking about how do we take a look at quarter two and quarter three and figure out what our game plan is for quarter two and quarter three. And I know not everybody on the call is always a part of like designing the plan necessarily, but I thought it might be helpful to just have a conversation about like what kind of recap we had on quarter one, and then looking ahead at quarter two and quarter three, and what things are you changing as an organization? What things are you continuing to do the same because it's working? And just sort of have a little bit of a conversation talking about your organization and where you're headed and how you did in quarter one. And then we can open it up to it being if people have questions on stuff or things they want to talk about. I mean, it's kind of just an open platform then. So, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, we are going to be finishing around 12:50 today for another, there's another like event that's going on right at 1 o'clock. So that just gives them time to like switch the Zooms over. So thinking about quarter one, some things I would say to reflect on. And even if this isn't necessarily something that you do for your organization as a whole, it might be something just to think about even in like personal goals that you have, taking a look at what went well in quarter one for you, maybe even for your role in particular, and what went well and why it went well. Like, was there something that you were doing specifically that maybe you started doing at the beginning of the year that helped it to go well? And then taking a look at what could you potentially do different, or what would you change moving into quarter two, quarter three? And then also taking a look at like, what am I doing that I don't need to be doing anymore? I think there's quite a few things that we do on like an everyday basis that like we think is necessary. And when we really look at it, it's like, is this really helping me get closer to my goals as an individual and as where our team is headed? So something that helped me with this is when I've been really trying to focus on slowing down in my role, because what I realized was in quarter one, a lot of the things that I was doing, they were in my head and they weren't like documented, which is a huge problem. So, and I mean, our team has really kind of been in like a triage mode of, we lost a couple of operations people last year. And I feel like, and I went through quite a bit last year with like losing my dad. And so we've just had like, our team has been through a lot in the last year, which I feel like a lot of teams have. And so it's been more like reactive things than like really focused on growth and focused on like, how do I better these systems? How do I, you know what I'm saying? It was more just like, oh, let's spray and put out this fire. Let's put out this fire. And not that that currently isn't our reality as well, but I feel like I've slowed down more to see like, okay, I need to document what I'm doing. And in addition to that, then the things that I'm doing, do I need to keep doing them? So those have been some questions that I'm asking myself pretty much everything that I'm doing. I'm like, do I need to keep doing this? And I'll make a list and then I'll talk to Scott about it. And sometimes I don't talk to Scott about it and I just stop doing it and see if anybody notices. And more often than not, nobody says anything. So to me, that shows like, oh, this isn't necessary or isn't like impactful enough if nobody has said anything. So looking back on quarter one, has anybody on the call done anything that's been like spending some time reflecting on the quarter one in general? Like what went well, what you would do differently, or has your team done that together at all?
I can share. So I'm Jenna. I know it says Lindsay on there, but it's Jenna. We did quarter one check-ins with all of our agents, like one-on-ones, and I think that was really helpful just to understand maybe what they needed different, either continued or different support with. And so that was really helpful to hone in on their individual statistics, their goals and also then talk about how we could better or differently or continue to support them in quarter two.
I love that. That's awesome. Do you want to share the team that you're on too? Just because
Oh,
I
sorry,
do
I'm
want
on.
this to be
Yeah,
like,
I'm
just people to get to reach out, that kind of thing.
sure. So I'm on Fernwood at KW North Shore.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Jenna. I love
Yeah.
the idea of meeting with the agents. And I know some teams do like a quarter or a weekly 411, or they're meeting weekly to talk about, goals and things like that. But I think having a separate meeting that's specifically dedicated to that, around goals and maybe what more support they need, et cetera, is a very different conversation than a weekly 411. So just something for
Yeah.
people to think about.
And we do the 411 at our team meeting every other week. So this was like an add-on,
Cool.
certainly using the materials from that to reflect, but sometimes
Yep.
it's nice to just take a little bit of a broader look at things.
Yep.
So yeah, I think the agents found it really helpful as well. They reflected that to us.
That's good. What were there any like themes that you heard in those conversations at all?
Yes, I mean they're all kind of in a little bit of a different space, but I think a lot of it was for my role specifically, helping some of them to create more of a schedule for themselves. I think there's lots of ideas about what they could or should be doing, but are they creating enough time to do that? And each of them, I think, needs to approach that a little bit differently based on like what's going on in their lives and their businesses and all that stuff. But
Yep.
so we're kind of individualizing that, but I think that's been a big theme, and just like what that investment looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll see how the solutions go in quarter
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
Positives and negatives already. But I think like just having that and kind of helping them to understand how they should be using admin support or could be using admin support
Mm-hmm.
um, to help with that accountability, not in a negative way, but in like someone
Mm-hmm.
else knows that I'm supposed to be kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that actually. So our team, we just had last Monday, this past Monday, our team advance. So a little bit later than we would like, but happy that we still had it. So we did a recap of quarter one. And one of the new standards that we're actually putting into place for our team is around their calendar. So, and it's something that Scott actually has to do for his region. So, like who he reports to as a regional director, he's
Mm.
required to send his 411 and they look at his calendar. And so now we're having the agents send a screenshot of their calendar for the week. So, like this coming Monday, they'll send a screenshot of their calendar for next week, end of April, beginning of May. And then they're going to send another screenshot of their calendar from this past week. So, like, this way you can compare, like, what was your plan and then what actually happened. So, it'll be interesting to see just around like if people are moving things around, why are they moving
Hmm.
lead gen around, or or whatever it is that they're wanting to work on, um because that will tell a good story ultimately, not a good or a bad story, it'll just tell a story, but then it's like now we have information to be able to look to help to make some changes. So
Hmm.
yeah, no, that's really interesting to hear about schedule and calendar, because I've even been hearing that in my one-on-one coaching calls with operations people. Speaking of which, happy admin professional day, by the way, to this group again. Um, but like that's been a conversation that I've been having is on the operations side, like really trying to hone in on their own calendar because they're getting pulled off in a variety of ways. But one thing that we told even the people on our team and also the coaching clients that I have is taking a look at, yep, if it's not in your calendar, it doesn't exist. Just being aware of things that pull you off of what you're doing. So like, and it's just, you could just keep like a tally. You could do like an ongoing Google Doc of just notes and stuff of what is pulling you off of what you're currently doing. Because I bet there's also themes that show up as to why. If it's like, let's say for me, if I kept a list every single week of, I'm working on something in my time block and somebody comes into my office or something, like not good or bad, just like, okay, this person came into my office to ask about this. So I can put it down to say, like, do I need more training for this person for this? Do I need like what solution can I have? Or is this just a one-off thing? You know? But I feel like there's so much clarity that can be pulled from understanding your calendar and what's pulling you off of your calendar. So, or what you decide to pull you off of your calendar. 'Cause it's all a choice ultimately. So, but just being aware of some of those things. Because then once you're aware of that, you can help to build some boundaries around like how to protect yourself from that happening. So like for me, I typically am somebody that has my door open, but now my door is shut a lot, which I don't really necessarily like, but I also really don't like when people just continue to pop in here, like, at least from our team anyways, when it's like, they could probably figure out the answer to their question if they just took like a second longer. So the closed door forces them to do that. So it's like some of those boundaries can help. So Mel, were you trying to say something? I saw you come off of mute.
I did. I'm not feeling well today, so that's why I'm not sharing my
Okay.
camera. Can you
Yeah.
guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you great.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I was just going to chime in and say, Katie, I'm kind of focusing on the same thing right now. So I'm just to introduce myself, I'm Melissa Nowak with the Mind Right Realty Group. I'm the transaction manager. And so as a transaction manager, I am trying right now, we're focusing on trying to provide more of that white space time so that I can focus on those bigger things like putting out the fires and all those things that do take me out of the tasky things and trying to focus on getting our virtual admins, or we're trying to take one of our virtual administrators and trying to get them more into a TC role. And so by giving them more of those tasky jobs, so I can focus on some of those bigger projects for the team. So a couple of things that we're working on in Q2 is, I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but the Eisenhower matrix. So it's just like 4 blocks of it's urgent and important items, so things you need to do right now. There's not urgent, so decide, schedule a time to do it. There's not important, delegate who can do it for you, and then delete and eliminate it. So I've been trying to really focus on those things. And then we are also reading 10 times is easier than 2 times, which I didn't think I was going to like. But the title sounds very different than what the book is actually about. And our team had like a discussion yesterday about it, and we couldn't stop talking about it. We had to force ourselves to stop talking about it because it was just so, we had a lot of ahas with it.
That's
Mel,
awesome.
could
What
you
were
say
some of
that
your
name
ahas?
again? Sorry, Katie. Mel, could you say the name of that book again, please?
Yes, it is 10 times is easier than 2 times by Dan Sullivan. And then some of the ahas we had really were, so right now, Tony on our team is our lead listing specialist, the only one who does listings, and then is also our director of operations. But in order for the most important thing for him to be in production, we really need him to step away a little bit from being the director of operations, or I'm sorry, he's the director of sales, but he really is like the director of the team. I mean, he is in there, he coaches us, and he's the one who, we have our accountability calls with him, but we need him to step back from that a little bit so that he can continue to focus on listings and leverage and things like that. And so those were really some of our ahas from the book, was like how to get him to back off a little bit and allow us to come in and make mistakes, mess it up, and but be okay with that, mostly by like focusing on that 80-20 principle.
Mhm. Interesting. I bet that's been a big aha for him and probably a big transition. I mean, just thinking about like, I mean, just all, yeah, to your point, all the things that he does and has done for the team. And it's, you know, he's obviously one of the owners of the team. So
Yep.
I could see that being a challenge for sure.
Yeah, it definitely has been. And it's been a challenge for me because for the longest time, I was the only admin person on the team. And so, and also, you know, I started in real estate with the team, with Keller Williams. So I don't have any experience outside of the team. And so I really didn't, I too didn't know like what is my 20% and what I should necessarily be focused on. So this has also been very helpful, you know, to kind of separate that. And then, you know, now that we do have more support, now, you know, is the time more, you know, better than ever to get Tony to kind of lean on his admin support and focus on, you know, lead generation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. There, something that I found that it seems like it's been helpful with probably more Scott than Jeremy, just because I have more like interaction with Scott along those lines. And I'm sure people on this call too with their rainmaker potentially too, like not really like muddling into what you're doing, but like we have to remember they're just so used to operating that way. Like I don't think it's intentional. I don't think it's, you know, it's just they're busy and they're rapid fire working on things. But there's times where I'm like, Scott, that's not worth your time. Or like, hey, some like either I should be doing that for you or May, who is our executive assistant, virtual assistant. I'm like, that's definitely something that we can be doing for you or should be doing for you if we're not already. So that's definitely has been like continues to be a conversation with us, with him and with me, because I'm not great at that either. So I feel like I need a lot of reminders around stuff like that. So just around delegation in general. So nice. Well, thanks for sharing that. I really love that you guys do a book. Is that every quarter or every month that you guys do that as a team?
It's every quarter.
Every quarter. Okay.
Yeah, the last we did the Power of Perception with from Drew Taylor was our quarter 1 book, which was very different from this book, but I feel like it was almost it was helpful to like get emotionally ready and then kind of dive into some of this deeper work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that book though. I don't think I've heard of that. Not that that means anything, but it's good to
I had never heard of it either.
it's good
Yeah.
to be exposed like that than more of like the typical things that I feel like people typically are saying that they're reading as a team. You know what I mean? So it's cool to hear things that are a little bit more out of the norm, if you will.
Yeah, the Power Perception was one of those two that really dug into sort of, really dug deep into not only your work life, but your personal life, but really how to, I guess, kind of get over some of the just our perception of things,
Yeah.
and ways to look at things, you know, in a different light. And not only, you know, yourself, but your team members, your family members, you know, just everyone in general.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's kind of that seek first to understand, right? One of the principles of Keller Williams, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I love it.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. Nice. Did anybody, so we can wrap up talking about like quarter 1, quarter 2 things. I have one more question about this. Is there anybody on the call? Are you doing anything different heading into quarter 2, quarter 3 than you were doing in quarter 1? Nothing that stands out. Okay.
Say something if you don't mind. Hi everyone,
Yeah.
I'm Amy. I'm with CGR Realty Group. And I just started in February. So I started like midway through quarter 1 and was playing catch up with some quarter 1 things until even just a few weeks ago. So I'm like trying to get into a rhythm here
Yeah.
and prioritize and make a schedule and follow a schedule and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as your question, Katie, about doing things differently, we just hired a virtual assistant maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago. So that's brand new for me. He's doing such a great job, and I'm super glad to have him on our team. But our rainmaker was out of town the week that he started. So I was the lucky one that got to train him, and I'm still like training him, even though I'm new myself. But I'm just learning how to leverage projects that I'm working on, because my rainmaker will throw me, like 12 things my way, and then trying to figure out, okay, what can I give to him to do and what would make sense for me to do myself. So kind of just trying to manage all those tasks and keep all the balls in the air, juggling them at the same time.
Yeah. While being new, I feel like you've been here way longer than you probably just hit your 90 days then, right? Or close to hitting your 90 days.
This Friday will be my 90
Okay.
days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, congrats. That's really exciting. And I mean, that's a
Yeah.
lot. I mean, you're continuing to learn and now you're training
Yes.
somebody else. Yeah.
Yes. It's a lot, but it's good. And I like constantly learning new things. So it's a good role for me to be in. And, sometimes you're like, whoa, this is a lot of information all at once, but just kind of learning again how to take it all in. And I heard somebody say, I forget who it was, but like, it's a buffet. You don't have to eat everything. Like, you like just like pick some things of the buffet to eat every day and then like move on to the next thing the next day. So I've been remembering that.
I love that analogy. I actually haven't heard that, but I really can appreciate that. Like visually,
Yeah.
I can appreciate that.
Right? We
Yeah.
all love food, or I mean, at least I love food. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, a buffet. I get that. I get that analogy.
Oh, that's funny. Well, does anybody have, I mean, and thank you for sharing about that, Amy. I mean, I feel like that's a huge change when you think about it of leverage. And I mean, Jenna, you mentioned that too around leverage, but for the agents of having them use leverage in their world, like what that looks like. What about you, Tanya? Is there anything like along the lines of leverage?
Just reminding the agents that we're here to help them and we can be used as that leverage, so that they can get out and do the things that are going to help them achieve their goals for sure. And I was just going to reply to Amy. So I started in my role about 1.5 years ago. And one thing that was really helpful to me was that I documented everything from the very beginning, from my perspective of what I was doing with my task and my role, so that I wouldn't forget what it felt like to be new at it. And so that I could help if I'm ever at a position where I'm training someone to do my job, I could do that. So what you're talking about with the virtual assistant, like, it's really crucial because I find like right now, I mean, I had someone who was excellent train me and my manager continues to help me along. So I had that as an advantage that was huge, but having things in my own words written down so that I could explain it later was really, really important. But I'm noticing that the longer I'm in the job, the more those things just become rote and routine. And then I don't remember what it was like to explain it from the very beginning without any of the information that kind of just seems like, I don't know, it's just like so routine now. So I don't know if you document things for yourself on your systems and processes, but that would be something that I would recommend highly as you're starting.
Very
It's a really good.
helpful. Thank you. I've made my first like tutorial videos, just like recording myself on Zoom and then just saving that to somewhere. But I've only done a handful. So that reminder to like keep doing that, stick with it. That's I almost should like do like a little calendar or, like a task in my calendar to remind me. But yes, that's That's a great suggestion. Thanks, Tanya.
Yeah, for sure. And you can also use Loom, Loom. That's really helpful, and you get a certain amount that you can do for free, just short videos that are tutorials, so that it's easy to replace later if you have something change. But that's really helpful. Might be a little bit easier than Zoom, not sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's huge, because it's kind of like you're almost like creating the training while you're training, in a sense, but to your point, it's from the perspective of like fresh eyes, new eyes on this versus eyes that have seen this for a while, because it is different. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
I could say
Interesting.
something real quickly too. Kind of what Tanya was saying was, and I agree with that. That also, when we're documenting what we do, it also, is documenting our value as well. So I think that's really important, because we can so easily forget, the things that we're doing day to day. But sometimes it does, become important to have that, and to be able to show that when you're having those touch bases and those one-on-ones with your rainmakers.
Yep. 100%. I mean, and something else that, and this became very apparent to me when it was last year, when my dad was really sick, and Scott and Jeremy were awesome about like really giving me like a lot of flexibility and time of like working and stuff like that. But then when I was out for a little bit after he had passed away, like it was interesting to see, like, not being in the business at all, like I wasn't working, and just to see different spots of like, oh yeah, I have never really documented like how we post about all of our new listings on social media, because I'm the only one that does it. And it's like you can just get into a habit of like, you're just working really fast, and just slowing down can be a challenge. There's no doubt about it. So, but I've recognized though, especially at the beginning of this year, that for me to slow down, like it's going to help me to speed up in the future, because I can't I can't replace myself here unless I have that information. So, and it's like, I know that logically, but then like in practice, it's been another thing. So I really have been focused on this, but it's like, I have to tell myself to stay focused on that, to stay in that zone of like slowing down a little bit to document everything. So it's not easy, that's for sure. And so I think about it, like that's how rainmakers feel too. Like if we're stepping inside of their shoes, being busy and juggling a lot of different things too. So, like maybe even trying to take some of that off of their plate too, which is probably a whole nother conversation. But, that's awesome feedback though, in terms of like what you're doing differently heading into this next part. The thing I was going to say, back to you, Amy, about like figuring out what to leverage. Something that we've talked a lot about inside of the coaching company that I work with is around strength finders. So really getting clear on what where your strength zone is, where your strength zone is for your virtual assistant, your executive assistant, whoever else is inside of your operations staff, to make sure that, they're working on things that are in their strength zone. So, and obviously that's not always the case depending on different scenarios, and especially just given the market, I think a lot of people are having to do a lot of things that are maybe outside of like their comfort zone and outside of maybe even their experience potentially too, but really understanding like, am I operating in my strength zone? Does it make sense for me to be working on social media stuff, or does it make sense for my awesome virtual assistant who loves doing graphic design? Does it make more sense for her to be doing that stuff? So just slowing down to just being aware of some of that stuff can be very helpful too. So yeah, nice. Well, we have like 15 minutes or so left, because we're going to end a little bit early, to just open it up. So what kind of things are we working on? Or does anybody have anything that they're wanting to brainstorm about, or something they're running into that they're having a hard time with? A system they need to like rip off and duplicate from somebody else? kind of like an
This is,
open format.
yeah, I was gonna say, this is Kathy from Team Trimble. And one of the things that I was gonna say that we're doing in this quarter versus, I guess, even historically, is where we always looked at growth and expansion as adding agents to the team. We're actually, after coming back from family reunion, looking at how we can create these like a, more of like a micro team where we don't actually add agents in. We create more of a referral network locally, so we don't have to manage people and their goals and expectations, but there's like some expectation, we are basically potentially partnering up with hand-selected agents where we would be giving them referrals, whether they're, paid, leads that have come in or they're from the sphere or whatever, but there would be like a standard, I guess, like expectation of how it would be handed off, how it would be communicated, how those clients would be treated by those agents. So it's just something that we started to think about coming out of family reunion. Is this a better model? Because, you don't have to provide the operational support, but the revenue is potentially there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's anything that anyone else has. So it's not like the referral network as much as we looked at that traditionally, like outside of like our market center or our state or our region, where you have referral agents that you would refer a client to that is moving to another state. This is more like it's an expansion model within your own market, and how to have, people being taken care of, but you're not necessarily having to onboard them and keep them, supported and change everything, change the team photo, change this, all of the stuff. If you find other qualified, good quality agents that are like-minded, have a similar business philosophy, value system, is there more of that, like a higher level partnership that's available?
It's interesting that you say that, actually, because it's actually it was my very first coaching client that I'm still working with. They are like a husband and wife team, and they have grown in the past and had a just not great experience with hiring agents. And so but he doesn't want to work with buyers. Really, he just doesn't also have the time to work with buyers. So they have started to kind of do what you're saying, Kathy, like develop some good relationships with agents that are they're in Florida, so totally different market, but develop relationships with agents in their market center and then a local business center that's close by them to refer out some of those specific buyers. But like to your point, with the understanding of like they still own the contact and like how they want to be treated and things like that. And they're kind of in the beginning stages of it, and they seem a lot happier doing that than actually managing agents on their team. So I'll be curious to see how it works out, though.
Yeah, I'll let you know. There was and I'm totally forgetting her name, but there's a husband-wife team out of Appleton that is doing just this. They had kind of expanded. I think she was the OP up there at one point in time. She's been in the business for a while and is kind of, her business has transitioned over the years. And this is something that she talked a little bit about on one of the panels at Family Reunion. And it was super intriguing to me. And so I spent actually about an hour on the phone with her about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And so we're starting to think, does this potentially make, sense for us to do something like this versus continue, adding bodies to the team. So, but it's very important. I mean, it's like kind of this delicate balance, like of, it's very important that the people we partner with, they can brand it themselves, once it's handed off, it's fine, but that we want to make sure that our integrity and credibility is maintained because it is something that is coming in, either through our sphere, our farm, or obviously just even leads from advertising and other things that we do. That it is the first representation is our team. So, there's got to be some protection of that too. So
Yeah, that could even be one of the things that our business coach for our team talks to us about quite a bit is like bringing people into our world for them to show us what they can do before potentially joining our team. And it kind of sounds like that could even potentially be something down the line too, of like, you might meet some rock star people that, you know, like your values align, like, etc. And it's like, they would benefit from being on your team maybe in the future after you've had some experience of handing off some leads to them potentially too. So, um, but yeah, he's really big on like, invite people into your world and have them show you what they're capable of before you fully onboard them into all of your things, to then find out that they aren't going to get 201 contacts into the database, and they're not going to do all these things that they said they would when things felt really good, you know, and they weren't actually like
right.
in the business. So yeah.
Right. Well, and sometimes, I mean, I think that, you know, with the team, a lot of times, you know, you want good quality agents, you know, that are joining your team. They could be business owners too. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a natural evolution, I think, if you even have an agent that is newer, let's just say, but they're coming from like a business background or something like that, you know, they're gonna hit it out of the park. You know, they just have to learn the business and all that stuff. So there's gonna be this natural, you know, attrition that is not necessarily bad, you know, but it's going to happen because they're going to be like, well, I want to do this on my own type thing. Even, and we obviously, you know, maintain the camaraderie and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, well, instead of doing it that way, maybe there's a different way to do it, you know, which is just partner with each other and do maybe shared services. So anyway, it's, is there anyone else that's, I guess I'm not sure if there's anyone else that's done anything like that or had discussions or said no to that? Or...
Not yet, but it's interesting to hear you say that though, because I mean, that very much is what we've been just kind of brainstorming about, of different ideas, of different ways to be able to potentially do business. Because Craig, who's our coach, he's like, you guys, he's like, I'm all about leverage, and leverage is a great thing. But he said, when people don't understand the value of leverage because they've always had it, you're a lot more valuable to someone who hasn't had leverage and knows what it's like to do all of these things, to then come into your world to have those things taken off of their plate versus getting those things right from the beginning. So like maybe, for example, a brand new agent coming in, do they really need like a TC? They might, because it might just be better for the client, etc. But it also might be better for them to understand what all goes into those things, to then understand when they join a team, like what their commission splits go towards in order to support the leverage that they're getting. So, but yeah, that's interesting. I'm curious to hear like how that goes for you though, Kathy, because we've definitely our team has been talking about something very similar. So.
Oh yeah, I will. I will happily do that, and I'll let you know. Like I said, we're just kind of formulating it all, putting it together, and then putting together like, you know, who are VIP list of people that we would want to, you know, invite into our, you know, network, if you will. And we changed our name. Well, we just expanded our name from, it was Team Trumbull Real Estate last year. Now it's Team Trumbull Real Estate Collective in Q1 or the end of last year. So it really allows us to expand that way, and having, you know, the brands within the brands, so that if there's, you know, other individual agents that are well branded that we can partner with, and it makes that conversation easier, you know, because it's already planned and the foundation is set.
Totally. Well, and you guys are so good at that. I mean, the branding parts and staying consistent with that, you're very strong in that. So that's awesome. I love that. And I appreciate you sharing that. I'd be curious to see just if things continue to head in a direction like that, or as like an option in terms of growing your business, you know, or anybody's business. So
yeah, I'll keep you posted.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
What, is anybody doing any events coming up in quarter 2 or quarter 3? Like client events, aside from the one, at least in our office in New Berlin for the shred event? Is anybody doing any events coming up?
I'll just say something real quickly about events, because I was going to say it when we were talking about what are you doing differently. One of the things that we're doing differently is just more simple, smaller, like we're considering like events, redefining how you define an event, right?
Mhm.
So we did this Easter basket giveaway, like as an event we gave away like 5 Easter baskets, and it was offered to the community at large as well as to like our client database. And literally we had, I don't know, 50 people sign up so quickly. And so we got, names, addresses, emails, addresses, phone numbers, like bananas. And we partnered with like a local company who makes like, she's like a local sweet chocolatier type person. And so she's and she's a young entrepreneur. And so, obviously in support of her business, but then also kind of to quote unquote, share the love out to the community. So we did that, and it was just amazing. And so riffing off of that, next week, Wednesday, we're doing a May Day bouquet building pop-up event on the veranda of our office. So May 1st is May Day, and we're basically doing like little tulip bouquets where people were able to, sign up again, share it out with our client database as well as to the community at large. We put it out on social. We put flyers up at all the little coffee shops all around. Anyone who let us put it up on a community board. And we have 2 different sessions, like a morning session and an afternoon session. We've had so many people sign up, like with mothers and daughters, and I mean, our spaces are almost filled, at capacity. And again, we have, a good mixture of clients, so they're feeling loved on, and then people that are new, that are just from the community, that will have an opportunity to, network with and share, our love, whether the return of spring and flowers and supporting local businesses. So we have, so anyway, they're not expensive events. We've totally changed how we think about what an event is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been huge.
Yeah, no, that's that's awesome. Yeah, Mel, are you able to share about your planned event? I feel like you guys, you guys have been doing this for a couple of years now.
Yeah, this is probably our 4th or 5th year doing it. So we partner with Bloomel's, and we give away plants to our forever clients. So it is, I am interested in doing some more of these like community events, and I would really like to try to get the team to start doing more community events. This one is very much more specific to our forever clients, past clients, clients who have referred us business. We are always open to inviting, some newer clients or potential leads, but it's mostly focused on forever clients. And we give away 2 plants. So I think it's 1 herb and 1 veggie plant. And so everyone just, signs up, and we do Pete's Pops that day as well. So we have some popsicles. It's usually typically a warm day, and then we just have music, and we have like, I think, some chalk and stuff for the kids to do. We do it at the Keller Williams office, just in the parking lot there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun. And it's something that's very simple. We don't have to actually put a whole lot of work into it.
Yeah, I remember it was, it might've been, I think it might've been the day of not Discover New Berlin, Safety Saturday, which is an event in New Berlin, that our team pretty much every year we have a table there for the most part. When I was bringing stuff back to the office, I think it was the same day that you guys had your event. Oh, you're good. It was the same day that you guys had your event, and the parking lot was packed. So
yeah, it's a lot of fun. We have music. It's just a good time to spend with your forever clients. And for someone like me who doesn't always get to meet the clients, it's always just email, phone call, never face to face. It's very
Mhm.
awkward, but also very cool.
Yeah. No, that's great. Something our team, so we're plugging into the shred event that's happening in our office in New Berlin, which is awesome because so much of it is actually what happens leading up to that, obviously, and after the fact. I mean, the event itself is great, but gives you a reason, and these agents are reason to call. An event that we were going to actually do that we're bumping back now because of the shred event is a paint collection event. So kind of to your point, Kathy, I feel like in the past, our events were very around like we just did a happy hour event. We haven't done one of those in quite some time, but otherwise it was always like us giving them something for the most part. And I feel like more recently it seems more along the lines of like this shred event where they can come drop things off, or a paint event where they can come drop off any like paint or varnish that's just been sitting in their basement or their garage for the past 20 years, and then we'll dispose of it. That was feedback that we got from clients that they would love something like that. I know you guys just did one too, Amy, for, was it like bringing in furniture or something like that too?
Yeah, we didn't realize there was going to be a shred event, so we kind of did our own, but it was more than just the shred. Yeah, so it was shredding. We had a junk hauler, and then we had Milwaukee Homeless Veterans Initiative. And then if people brought a donation for that, for MHVI, they got a free coupon for a taco from our taco truck. So that was kind of fun and encouraged people to like bring things in.
Awesome.
But yeah, a lot of people love that junk hauler because what else are you going to do? And it's like everyone's kind of getting in spring cleaning mode. So
Yep,
now's the time to do it.
totally. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Cool. Well, anything else before we wrap things up? Sorry, we need to end a couple minutes early, but there's an awesome seller communication panel that's going to be happening right after this. So if you're free, I would definitely recommend chiming in on that. I'll be watching, I have another call, but I'll be watching the recording, but it looks like a great conversation, like a great group to hear from. So good. Well, thank you for being here. If there's any questions or anybody needs anything, again, we have the Discord channel. So, I mean, feel free to put things in there if you guys have questions, or if you're like, I don't know how to do this, or does anybody have, a system for this or whatever. Here is I'll put it in the chat here if you're not in this group yet. I mean, feel free to share this with other people too that are in the operations community. Just trying to, I mean, really, some of the feedback that we got was that people wanted a space to be able to chat and share things and talk about things. And so that's why we created this. It doesn't cost any money. So it's a nice little like free space for people to be able to connect. So if there's somebody else that you think would benefit from being in that group, feel free to send them that link. So cool. Well, thanks for being here today.